YouTube. All right, second league of the day. Running through some Dimir Murktide Shadow deck that we've played a little bit here. It's a pretty solid deck, like just counter spells, hand disruption, and then Murktide and Shadows like our top end finishers. Have a little extra interaction with like Brazen Borrower in the sideboard. Got most of your typical blue black finds, like in this case, Mystical Dispute, Turok, Engineered Explosive, Soul Guide, but we're also running like Hurkyl's Recall, a couple Spreading Seas, or Urza Saga decks, Tron, things like that. Additional Stubborn Denial for the unfair matchups. I'm trying out a Force of Negation for, again, like the really unfair stuff. The Surgical Extraction for Rhinos living in decks like that. So yeah, we're just going to hop in and see how it goes. Nothing really from the new set that looks like it's going to make a splash in this kind of build. Founding of the Second Path is one of the cards that a lot of people are Founding of the Third Path. Sorry, not enough paths. Founding of the Third Path is one of the cards that people have been starting to try out in like the Murktide, the blue-red Murktide builds. But this variation, you're like so much more reliant on counter spells and finding a threat and protecting it that I don't think Founding really does a lot. Because you're often not going to be casting a spell on turn 2 on your own main phase. You're going to be holding up like Counterspell, Drown in the Lock, something like that. Consider. Then even if you do mill yourself to fuel Murktide, we're not running like Dragon's Rage Channeler or Unholy Heat or anything like that that want Delirium. Alright. Now, do we want to Thoughtseize or do we want to hold up Stubborn Denial? I think I'm going to Thoughtseize. Opponent mold to 6. If we like catch their 1-drop and then maybe they have to fetch or something for their second land, then we might be able to just like get these Drown in the Locks online quickly. But if I like hold up Stubborn Denial and they don't have anything we can stub, then we run the risk of them just like passing through and we never really get any value. Urza Saga. We're just taking Imri. Yeah. Don't do anything. All right. So we are in Find a Threat mode. Find a threat. Hope our opponent didn't find the land. Dang. All right. Match 1, game 1. The downside of Dimir Murktide is on full display. If your opponent does anything to just like get on the board under your counter spells, the deck kind of ceases to function very well. I think I'm going to play out the Odawara so I can hold up like triple counters. Like, our opponent has got a pretty good chunk of advantage just from playing Urza's Saga against us. What do we got? We knew about an Underworld Breach, an Unholy Heat, 3 unknowns. They've missed a land drop, so it's like reasonable to think that they probably don't have more lands in hand. Yeah, we'll fight over an iteration. But I am going to have to like hold on to this second counter spell for this Underworld Breach. But if we don't find a Shadow or a Murktide, then a lot of this is for naught. This Breach deck is also on the short list of decks that I want to try out on stream one day. Okay. So it's currently a 7/7. So not dead to a single Unholy Heat. That's a plus. But it also currently doesn't have the mana to cast 2 Unholy Heat. I wonder if they play something like, I was going to say hard cast Ragavan. If I should be fighting over that. It's just like third expressive iteration. They could like try to dash a Ragavan and attack in. I block and they Unholy Heat. Best draw would probably be like Archmage's Charm. There's a decent part of me that just wants to like let this Underworld breach go. But I guess at the same time, like they can bobble a few or a couple times. Iteration. Probably just not worth it. Third iteration. I need answer to Ragavan. That's what we call an answer to Ragavan. Their hand is an Underworld Breach. Or not an Underworld Breach, an Unholy Heat and an Unknown. Holy Heat, Thassa's Oracle. Alright, we don't care about the Thassa's Oracle, so we are cranking in with Murktide and hoping to dodge one draw and one bad hit off Ragavan. Death Shadow's a dead hit. So all we care about is the card that is not named Thassa's Oracle in their hand. Amber, sure. Guess they're just like looking at my deck for information. Their grinding station is fine. They can mill me for a bunch, but say a bunch. 6. I think they're just trying to get like most information possible, checking out my deck. which is smart. Like, obviously, I can't like respond to that by conceding. So, all right, so let's get Chalice, Soul Guides. These are fine. Extra stub. Spreading Seas. Do I want... Probably want Force Negation. I don't think I care too much about Surgical. I guess it does just like stop combo. Still doesn't seem great though. This might just be like overkill. Poured out of Murktide because I'm sure they can get piece of grave hate off Urza Saga. Probably leave in some number of Street Wraith. Might just be putting too much stock on like countering combo pieces and not enough on answering the cheap creatures. Like if they just go Ragavan into Imri, or do they just have turn 1 Imri? I think we're just gonna main phase kill this. Drop to 4. Hopefully nothing too crazy this turn. Go Misty Pass. Next turn, I might EE on 1 and pass. I don't feel like I really need to, but it could be nice just to like get this Aether Spellbomb off the board. All right. Well, I guess that changes up my EE on 1 play. Play out Shadow, say go. Some sort of a clock down. To hold up Drown. in situations like the last turn, I prefer casting counterspell on the Ledger Shredder. Ooh, rough. Prefer casting counterspell to Drown in the Lock, because Drown in the Lock has that added flexibility of like, hey, if my opponent follows up that Ledger Shredder with Land Emery, I still have an answer to that Emery and Drown. But if I drown the Ledger Shredder expecting counterspell to just be able to like tag whatever, and they just follow it up with like Land Ragavan or something, I'm in a bit of an unfortunate spot. So I value the flexibility of Drown staying in hand. But there are going to be situations where, like, hey, I want to get use out of this Drown now because it might be dead later. Like, if my opponent, or if I'm playing against Murktide and my opponent casts that Ledger Shredder, then maybe I want to drown it instead so that counterspell is always a hard answer to Murktide. But it's situational. There's no real clear-cut rule of thumb to go off of. All right. Little interaction, little lands. Expecting this to be Murktide. Alright, this is actually way better than Murktide. Urborg. I don't think I've seen a lot of Urborgs out of my living end opponents. Somebody's got the breakdown on that decision. Taking the outburst. Or do we need... Yeah, just take the outburst. They would need to cycle into both black card and grief in the next 2 draws. They just find another violent outburst. Okay. This is a beautiful shadow. It is a beautiful shadow. They're like planning to Sky Turtle. Like I said, they just found another violent outburst. Alright. Let's take the outburst. Attack in with our shadow. And I think I'm going to go for the full 9 here. Try to make it a 2-turn clock. And now I kind of want to just cast this Murktide. So I think I'm going to... Like, either one lets me hold up Stubborn Denial for the living end on their turn. I assume this is just like Sky Turtle away one of the threats, untap and go for living end. Not gonna Sky Turtle. I don't know, they just weren't on my end phase. Bold choice bouncing the Murktide. And this Shadow is presenting lethal currently. Odawara. Like, I think if your plan's to Odawara, you're better off just casting the Shardless agent. Like, either I've got the answer or I don't have the answer. But Odawara means like, hey, just give me another draw step. And I still have like the same plays to make. Like, I still have all the cards I had from before Odawara plus a new one. Let's just counterspell this and move on with our day. Game 2. So we want the stub, we want the mystical disputes and the force of negation. We want the surgical, chalice, and soul guides. We do not want dismember, dress downs, fatal pushes, and probably just get rid of the brazen borrower. Or do we want the brazen borrower and ditch the Murktide? Archmage's Charm on the draw is also a little slow. I could like leave in a dress down over an Archmage's Charm for like grief. But if they're gonna grief in the first 2 turns, like before I have a chance to dress down. Seems like a whole bunch of awesome sideboard cards. It is some pretty good stuff to bring in. All right. We've got a threat. We've got a surgical. We've got a bunch of counter magic. Got an opponent with a basic island. All right. The wombo combo of surgical extraction and surgical extraction force negation. Have at it. They probably should have considered, right? I guess it doesn't matter that much, because if they do consider, then I do still have like soft stubborn denial for a turn 3. Or just hit the land. Yes. All right. Opponent's had enough of our shenanigans. How dare he hit a land drop? OP absolutely lost to the land drop. But our hand was gas. Like, we had another draw to see because even if they drew the Cascade spell on that turn, or we didn't draw the land on that turn, and they untapped and cascaded, we had stub plus surgical. So they had to wait until turn 4, which means we did have another opportunity to maybe hit the land. And if we didn't hit the land there, there's a reasonable chance we hit like another Consider, a Street Wraith, a Soul Guide Lantern, Chalice of the Void, like Hand Disruption. There's a lot of reasonable hits we could have there. Gigantha the Wellspring. It's a Shadow Mirror. Maybe we get really, really lucky and it's like Charbelcher with no Iron Crag feats. It's probably just Shadow. Never mind. The Tron guy I faced earlier. That was not one of my guesses, but, you know, whatever. Can't win them all. Venue. Land. All right. At least we get down a Shadow here. Oh, yeah. Please don't Warping Whale me. Big bucks, no Warping Whale. Damn it. Less, damn it. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're 6/6. Yep. What a roller coaster. I know, right? Okay. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's not terrible for us. I'm probably going to end up just like cycling this dress down. What kind of shit Tron keeps that? This is the Tron keep that I deserve my opponents to have after all the years of them just having like the absolute nuts on turn 3. I deserve a Tron opponent that keeps a bad hand for once. Unless it says Sylvan Scrying, I'm not countering it. Do they have Tron? You have another warping whale? Okay, sure. It's like an uncertain turn 5 Tron. I mean, knowing my opponents, it's probably pretty certain. Deal. Deal all day. If I hadn't have played that land last turn, I could have just like thrown a fatal push at the Murktide in response and made him exile it. Which I'm going to do if he cracks this relic right here. All right. You ready for this? Ah, I thought he was going to activate the relic. Please tell me he has Tron on turn 5. Whose side are you on? I was really hoping he was going to like activate relic on my ends or on his instep. So I could just like fatal push the Murktide, exile the fatal push, and grow it to an 8/8. I think in my history as a modern player, this is the farthest I have ever seen a Tron opponent go and still not have Tron, nor did they find it. And I think on a deep spiritual level, I deserved that. Somewhere deep down inside, I deserved my Tron opponent to have a bad game. Likelihood of it happening twice, very, very slim, but one time's plenty for me. Mystical Dispute's about the only other thing I would consider. Demonic Tutors coming in with a raid. Thank you so much. Good games earlier. I say good games. You smoked me. I didn't know what the hell was going on for the first, like, probably 12 turns of the match. Then all of a sudden, I was like, had a thought that it was a Greasefang deck after the Parhelion. But then, like, didn't see the Greasefang, saw a cookbook, and then all of a sudden got excited because I thought it was an Asmo deck, but we never saw Asmo game 1. So I was like, I'm completely gone. But hope you had an awesome stream. We got Demonic Tutors and Babala. Thank y'all so much for the follows. We are over here playing some Dimir Murktide Shadow right now. Currently in match 3 against Tron. We are 2-0 at the moment. A little bit of a sketch one. But for everybody coming over from Tutor stream, my name is Michael, or Control Freak on Magic Online. Play a lot of Modern, especially a lot of Death Shadow, but we did play some Infect earlier at a Channel Point Redemption League. I think I'm going to keep it. It's a little sketchy, but if their plan is like turn 1 Star Sphere, turn 2 Ancient Stirrings, then Stubborn Denial can be extremely good. I am, or is that Limp? Can't tell if it's an I or an L. Limp 7. Thank you so much for the follow. Hope you're having an awesome Wednesday wherever you're at in the world. Appreciate you coming by and hanging out. All right. So we did get our star/sphere start. So maybe this Stubborn Denial can hit a Ancient Stirrings or a Sylvan Scrying. So I think I'm just going to pass and try to play into that. Like, even if I found a Thoughtseize or something off this Street Wraith, I would still try to stub like a Sylvan Scrying here. All right, what do we got? One more time. Celebrate. Could have held up Counterspell there, but kind of thinking they probably just got Tron. They don't have Tron. Opponent, what are you doing? What are you keeping these hands for? It's very risky, but like I need to get on the front foot. Like every turn I give them, things just get exponentially worse for me. So I want to play into the upside of like, hey, they played Power Plant Tower. Some theoretical argument out there somewhere is that they shouldn't have natural Tron every opportunity. Somewhere out there, that's a reasonable, sound thought process. And so if I play to that, then the odds are my opponent doesn't just naturally have the mind in their hand, in which case me getting a shadow on board is better. And this is obviously the most unlucky Tron player that's ever installed this program, so I feel sorry a little bit. They should probably, like, submit a bug report to Moto, because obviously their draws were rigged by some higher power, and nothing could have possibly caused it outside of divine intervention. That never happens to me when I play against Tron. Me neither. That's the first time. You can ask everybody in chat that's been here before. My luck against Tron is the most ungodly, atrocious thing I have ever experienced in life. Like, it's clockwork that Tron is going to see just ridiculous nut draws against me. Before y'all came in, we were talking about how, like, the universe owed me this one. Shia, thank you so much for the follow. Hope you're having an awesome Wednesday wherever you're at in the world. But yeah, for, like, everybody that came over through the raid, if you want to hop into chat, like, more than welcome to come in. Tell us about yourself. What got you into Magic? If you like Modern, if you like other formats, what are you really into? Why Death Shadow is the best archetype. Talarian TA, thank you so much for the follow. Hope you're having an awesome Wednesday. Oh, little Obosh. What do I think about this hand versus Obosh? This is like all-in shadow hand. We don't play Battle Rages. I do have 2 Fatal Pushes interaction. Let's see what happens. I'm optimistic. We're going to get to cycle a Street Wraith and, like, blow out a burn spell. I'm in defeat. There you go. There you go. I'd show you mine, but it's not that kind of stream. So that's what Dingo After Dark is for when he hops on. All right. Double Spyro, Flame Splash. Blast Zone. Always Blast Zone. Okay, well, What's our play here? That's decent. I could play out Shadow into the double removal. I don't think that's worth it. Try to high roll like a counter spell. A lot of fatal pushes. This looks like a bad matchup. This is a bad matchup. Like main deck blast zones and Spyros out the ass. It's a little rough. But I mean, if we can find a counter spell for this Spyro, we're not in bad shape. Flame Slash is 4, so I can't Murktide out of Flame Slash range. So that means I probably just need to get the Shadow down here. Kind of go off the hopes that they Flame Slash this, and I get to get down Murktide in a surviving manner. Probably just fatal pushing my Shadow too. Another instant in the yard for the Tide. So I guess best case scenario would probably be like they play Spyro, I get to kill something, kill a token, untap, find like a fetch land, and get to go fetch, kill Spyro, kill a token, get in a big hit with Shadow, and then just play like a monstrous Murktide. I think that's best case scenario. Likelihood of it happening, not great, but I guess it's like reasonable likelihood, right? Or that. I don't know why they hesitated so much on that. We'll go to game 2. Blast Zone, Spyros, main deck Blood Moons. Does not a good matchup make. Bring in Spreading Seas. They've got some targets. We've got some targets. Spreading Seas to save ourselves off a Blood Moon. If we have one island already. Do I want Mystical Dispute as bad mana leak? It's probably reasonable. But I guess I do just have Counterspell, Drown and Lock, Archmage Charm, so maybe not. But they run a bunch of relics. Isn't a matchup that I've seen in a while. But enough about that. Since everybody's here hanging out, let me do my quick call to action. I usually do it one time a stream, and now seems like as good a time as any. So for anybody hanging out, whether you came over for the raid, you came over before, first off, thank you so much for hanging out in the channel. Always appreciate it. If you are new to the channel and you end up enjoying the content or enjoying the commentary, anything like that, feel free to hit the follow button. Doesn't cost you anything. Just lets you know whenever we go live, so you can come check it out. I usually try to play like 4 or 5 days during the week, trying out a bunch of shadow variants and whatnot. If you ever need updates, exclamation Twitter in the chat gives you our Twitter account. Anytime there's live stream, Twitter is the first thing that gets updated. Exclamation YouTube gives you a link to the YouTube channel if you're ever curious about other shadow content, other variations, things like that. We've got our YouTube channel all broken down by variations, including things like Mardu Death Shadow, Mardu Shadow Blade that we played yesterday. Everything's timestamped, so you can go see individual matchups, whatever you want to see. And then finally, exclamation Discord for our Discord channel that is very, very new, very, very slowly working its way up. So if you're expecting like a big, grand Discord experience, you're going to be in for a tough awakening, but it's there. But other than that, yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. And as Wagner has so nicely shown, we do have, in my humble opinion, some of the sweetest Death Shadow related emotes on Twitch. Which, if you're ever in the streaming game or you want to get your own emotes done, there's a link like straight down below to our artist Jill's Instagram page. She does like commissions and stuff. So if you ever need any artwork done, consider giving her a shout for your next project. All right. I'm going to need to get a basic island off this second one, but might as well fetch and shock off the first. That's a lot of spike field hazards. Like a lot of spike field hazards. Why do you have so many spike field hazards? Nice. So there goes our Spyro issue for the moment. We've got Fatal Push to deal with a Den. So all we really need to do is like find counter spells, drown in the locks, whatever we can find to like make sure Murktide gets down. I guess we can get down Murktide as a 6/6 next turn and just like hope that's good enough. All right, let's count the spike field hazards. 1, 2. That's gone. I would not like to put Stubborn and All in my graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blue. Go. Hopefully we get a little bit of a cheeky win here because we didn't show them Stubborn Denial last game. Or not Stubborn Denial, Murktide. Yeah. I'm gonna keep my mana available. Like, honestly, I probably could have let that go and been fine. I mean, I'm winning the race before Obosh becomes an issue. But I guess like Obosh and double spike field hazard be turn 6. And I'm currently killing on turn 7. So I just want to drown this. Only drowning because it's going to be dead if I don't use it, so might as well, right? But maybe I could have just let him have it. if they pop it like I'm growing Murktide. I don't know. It's close. Obosh the Prey Piercer. Obosh the can be countered. Another stub would have been a great draw. So. All right. So what did we learn from that? Opponent's going to have a tough time with the resolved Murktide, but they do have a lot of relics. So I think I actually want to bring in Force of Negation as an extra out to that. Do they play Ragavan? The Imp, I have no idea what that emote is. Mage. Look, is it just like a huge beard on a wizard? That's pretty awesome. I'm a fan. Yep, we're dead. That was like the thing we couldn't deal with this hand. All right. Maybe we get to a point where we get to Archmage's Charm, take it, but I would love to draw a Fatal Push off the top right here. They put Obosh to hand. Fatal Push. Woo. Okay. We've got a game on our hands. I thought we were out of it. I take back that statement. You're in fact not out of it. I do have to decide how aggressive I want to be with this Murktide. Ditching Obosh. I kept Fury. So this is like Evoke Fury. I think I just have to take this hit here. And maybe try to like Archmage's Charm, draw a couple. So I know they've got Fury and Blast Zone still. Face of the moon. Counter you. Okay. Really, really good draw. 4. Here is a Murktide. Currently a 7/7. So we can block a Spyro. Still not die to an Evoked Fury. Don't cast the Fury. They don't do anything. Alright. We're not going to shy away from attacking. We need to deal some damage. Maybe they'll take the blast zone up to 3. Okay. Thank you for using your spells. Huh. So I guess we're just going or play Murktide, attack for 9, play Shadow, pass, or are we... Yeah. That's got to be my play. Actually, should I hold back? Because I'm dead to activate Den, attack out, bolt me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Activate Den, attack out. I blocked in. Token gets through, lightning bolt. So yeah, I'm just going to pass. It doesn't change the clock, and I've got counterspell up next turn. And I don't think there's anything that I play into by not attacking, but I think there's enough stuff that I play around by not attacking. Ooh. 4-0. What do we got for round number 5? It's kind of like if not attacking doesn't lower my win percentage, but attacking does, then it seems clear cut to not attack. But I guess it's like all assuming that they don't have a removal spell for Murktide. If they do have a removal spell for my big Murktide, then it changes the clock. But I don't think their deck plays a lot of ways to deal with Murktide. Yeah, the push draw was fantastic. That was the game changer. And them just like using their mana on turn 2 to load up Obosh. Ralpho, nice one. I mean, we got a little lucky. Not turning it down though. That's a rough matchup, but it just goes to show that like Murktide can sometimes outweigh rough matchups by just giving you a big chunky flyer in the air, right? Oh, actually, before we start, let's do a poll, a prediction, if you will. All right, start a prediction. That one. Okay, predictions live. Got 2 minutes to get your votes in. Um, whether you think we're going to get the trophy or not. Spoiler alert, usually the no vote gets the win. Did you consider keeping 2 mana open to react to their plays with counterspell and dress down? You mean instead of playing the second Murktide? Lone Crusader, thank you so much for the follow. Hope you're having an awesome Wednesday. It was a consideration, but like my opponent played land pass for like 3 turns after the Spyro. And so I think it's better to just like put lethal on board and give them 1 turn to either kill me or deal with what I've got. And they only had 2 cards in hand. So I think I'd rather just like say, you've got to deal with this right now, this 1 draw, or it's game over, instead of holding something up. Because like if I hold something up that turn and I don't hit the land, then I have the same decision all over again, right? Where I can either hold up the counterspell a second turn or play the Murktide, but I've given my opponent another piece of information, another potential out. So I think it was better to just like push the issue. But it's obviously deck dependent. Like I don't think they had a lot of answers for Murktide based on game 2. Like it seemed like their plan was to relic me off of Murktide, not to kill Murktide if it got down. So if my opponent had started that next turn with like just play a relic, then what am I doing? Am I countering it? Like so I can play the second Murktide? Why not just get the Murktide down? All right. Yeah, no problem. Really good question. How much longer do we have on this prediction? I don't know, but let's go find a new opponent. But I don't know if anybody in the chat is interested in historic, but we've been playing a lot of historic Grixis Shadow recently and actually got up to top 250 Mythic with it. So we're going to have the September Mythic Championship qualifier, I think is what it is, on Arena. 10 days from today, September 17th. So we'll probably be streaming that. I think it's like Dominaria United sealed, so it might not be as interesting, but just so you know, we're a little bit of a multicultural stream around here. Modern, pioneer, historic. All right, hand is reasonable. Second Murktide's a little awkward, but playing versus the trophy leader, are we? Ah, go figure. All right. No pressure. I think we're keeping this one. Like, they mulliganed. But just having threats, enough cheap interaction to kind of hold me over a little bit. Is it Living End? I really hope it's Living End. Is in fact Living End. Okay. So if we find one more land, we're in reasonable shape. They found their second land. All right. That's not bad. At least we can get down. There we go. So we can get down to Shadow. Start holding up our interaction. Or we could get down to 4/4 Murktide. Like the shadows, the bigger, or no, we can't without tapping out. Never mind. Never mind. Scratch that. Scratch that. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. I thought I was putting the 5th card in the yard there for a second. So I was going to say getting down to 4/4 Murktide could have been reasonable to just like give the mana commitment now. So if I found another land next turn, I could play out the shadow, hold up counterspell and stubborn denial. Upkeep, violent outburst. All right, so we will start with a counter spell. Because if they choose not to force a negation, like I'd rather have the stubborn denial still in my hand. All right. So this is where we need a little bit of luck. We don't know about a Shardless Agent, do we? All right. Let us fetch and shock. Opt. Street Wraith kills. Thoughtseize kills. There's Street Wraith. Attack. Cycle you. Game 1 in the books. And again, we got a bunch of decent stuff for Living In. We've got Mystical Disputes, Force Negation, Stub, Chalice, Soul Guides, Surgical Extraction. Fine, it can be Street Wraith. Board out. Brazen Borrower, Dismember, Dress Downs, or meh. Fatal Pushes. And that's pretty much it. Let's go. And we get the trophy. Ooh. Deck is sick. The deck is pretty fun. Like, we've been working on this list for a few months now. Like, Aspiring Spike originally put the idea out there, but had like that blue-black draw a card, or draw 2, discard 1 spell, Tainted Indulgence. And I'm not going to lie, we hate that card so much that we actually added a full, or I guess it's Indulgence, a full paragraph about it. Oh, we'll keep it on the back of Counterspell Surgical. Get a Thoughtseize off the top. Nope, just more amazing counter magic. Got it. 5-0 Prague. Always good with some Praging. Murktide gives us a threat. Make your own test of talents. BYOT, build your own test. BYOT. Ledger Shredder with Bobble could also be an interesting option. It's copy and pasted the exact same thing, but it's just funny that you brought it up. We've thought about Ledger Shredder in the deck, but Ledger Shredder really doesn't perform well with a lot of the reactive spells that we're trying to cast. All right, so I'm going to fetch here and try to incentivize them to cast the Violent Outburst. Clearly, opponent is too smart for us, and I can't get away with it, but... do have the force. Okay. What's my plan from here? My plan is to chump block. I could have surgicaled the big dude, but I don't think that's really where I want to be. 3, 4, 5, 6. So, if I counterspell this, surgical... I'm trying to think about how I get to the from here to like Drown in the Lock, killing the Waker. Well, the Cascade doesn't matter. Like, they're not casting Living In with their threats on board, nothing in the yard. But I want to get Murktide big enough to outgrow the Striped River Winder and kill the Waker Waves with the Drown in the Lock. So if I counterspell this, it puts the 7th card in the yard. So I can untap, Drown here. Then I have to take another hit off this River Winder. Let's consider, in case we find a shadow. Play this tapped. Drown on the Lock, kill the Waker. Say go. R5. Okay. So we go here. That's an island. Am I supposed to surgical right here? No. 2, 3. Sure. Okay. So I can always surgical in response to them putting like a cascade spell on the stack. Okay, that doesn't really matter. If I'm gonna Archmage's Charm, I want to do it on their turn. But I do think I want to draw 2, like, pretty soon. Okay. Good draws. It's got 3 cards in hand. So I think I'm passing for one more turn. Am I? If I attack here, play the second Murktide. Yeah, I think I'm just passing one more turn. I think I want to make this second Murktide big enough to go toe-to-toe with the Riverwinder. And this is kind of what I was hoping for, is that they just put something on the stack. Just let me get a couple spells in the yard so I can grow the second Murktide. Now let's surgical the living ends now. Double ley line of sanctity. Love to see it. All right. So this should be pretty wrapped up now. We get to play our second Murktide. Grow the first one a whole bunch. Crack in for 10. And now we've got Drown, Stub to hopefully answer whatever the hell they put on the stack. I apologize. I can't interact with whatever they put on the stack. Why not Drown, Stub, Drown? You're right. I could have drowned and stubbed my own drown and presented lethal. Or no, I was 2 off, wasn't I? Didn't I attack for 7? They were at 9. But maybe I'd miscounted. If I miscounted, then that's on me. Then I had lethal and just missed it. But I thought I was 2 off. Like, I thought even if I played Murktide as the 5/5, I was still a point off. So I didn't think it was relevant. I'll have to go back through and double check that. But if that's the case, then yeah, I missed lethal. Let's see. So let's get those channel points paid out. Hell yeah, we got the trophy. Yeah, we definitely had it locked up, but obviously I'm a big proponent of the idea that if I can play around my opponent having the one card I've never heard of in all of Modern, then that's that might be worth it. Flareon TA, God, I hate living in. Well, we did beat it twice this league. And if you think you really want to curb stomp them, this is a pretty good deck to do it with. We got a really good track record against living in with this deck. Every time I see you playing this deck, you seem to be tearing it up, but I always can't stop myself thinking, why not just play Grixis or Blue Red Merc? Enlighten me, please. So the reason to play this deck over Grixis Shadow is you get more interaction on the stack than Grixis has. Like, your removal isn't as good, but your interaction against like spell-based combo and spell-based decks like Burn or Tron, Living In, anything like that gets phenomenally better. Because in addition to the normal 4 drowns, you get Counterspell, Archmage's Charm, Stub. If you want to run like Spell Pierce, Force Negation, whatever you can. And you also get to add Murktide, which just like we've seen a couple times this league against like Mono Red, against Living In, just like a big flying body gets there. And Grixis doesn't really give us that option outside of Ledger Shredder that may eventually get to that point. But this immediately coming down as a sizable threat's relevant. Compared to Blue-Red Murktide, it's all about what you're attacking. Like, Blue-Red Murktide's going to have a much better time against the fair decks because you get, like, Lightning Bolt and Unholy Heat to help deal with, like, Planeswalkers and stuff. This is going to be a lot better against, like, your Living Ins, things where Hand Disruption's good, Counterspells are good, and your threats are much quicker clock with Shadow and Murktide than like Dragon's Rage Channeler, Ledger Shredder, Ragavan are out of Blue-Red Murktide. A lot of talking. Let's see. See you in the deck dump. I hope so. But yeah, that was a good question. We got hydrate requests from Kioma and Perspiring Mike. As a fellow Mike, I appreciate the perspiration. Appreciate it. Might have to give it a spin. Yeah, like, absolutely. I think the deck's really fun. One of the reasons that I don't play it more is you have a rough time against turn 1 Ragavan, which obviously is a pretty significant influence in the format. But we've tried adding extra flex spots like Dismember, Blood Chief's Thirst, something else, just to try to have a little more interaction for it. But a lot of the time, there's just like nothing you can do. You're only running 4 or 5 answers for it. Go to another league. This deck's so beautiful. Unfortunately, I gotta call it there. So I think I'm gonna send everybody over to the Dingo for Dingo After Dark. But as always, thank you all so much for coming and hanging out. Appreciate everybody that stuck over from Demonic Tutors raid. If it's your first time here, again, if you enjoyed the content, enjoyed the commentary, feel free to drop a follow. Helps out a ton. Lets you know whenever we go live, so you can come check us out again, hang out again. Again, usually like Monday through Friday, like 4 or 5 days of the week from about 2 o'clock to maybe 8 o'clock or so, 2 to 6, 2 to somewhere in that range, depends on what I got going on. But always more than welcome. Always appreciate the new faces. See, Filthiest and Can't Find Username. Thank you so much for the follows. Hope both of you are having fantastic Wednesdays. But other than that, I'm going to send everybody over to Young Dingo for Dingo After Dark. Looks like he's playing the modern preliminary, so feel free to stick around, share some love from the channel. Otherwise, hope everybody has an awesome rest of their Wednesday. Stay safe, enjoy some good food and company. Catch y'all back later. Adios for now.